3, 2. Remember to look at each other. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, friends, to another episode of Investigators in Cars Drinking Coffee. I'm your host, Mark Murnan, president of Complete Legal Investigations. I'm a certified legal investigator, a certified fraud examiner, and surprisingly, once again, I am accompanied by my co-host and co-creator of the YouTube channel, of the popular YouTube channel, Investigators in Cars Drinking Coffee. Wendy Strom Murnan, licensed private investigator, certified paralegal. And we've got a killer topic this today.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
Get it? Killer topic? It's on the subject of autopsies. And what role do autopsies and medical examiner reports play in the criminal and the civil justice system?
Ooh,
yeah,
this sounds exciting.
Yeah, it's a killer topic.
I like talking about it.
Yeah.
When we were getting ready, it was really, fun.
You do not either. Anyway, it really is important if you think of some of the headline-grabbing incidents that have happened recently regarding the death of the death of a suspect, or even other words. Autopsies are critical, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
So we encounter them most frequently in our
criminal cases.
Okay, all right. Most of our clients were charged with first-degree murder, homicide cases.
Yes.
But we've also had them in other cases.
Because someone needs to be dead to do an autopsy.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be
basics.
Basics. Yeah, you have to have a dead body. But again, it's we're not making light of a very serious topic.
No.
However, after a while, you do this, you get almost like a gallows sense of humor.
Yeah.
But there are some interesting circumstances. Obviously, you have to have the death of the subject, but not every case is resulting in an autopsy, is it?
No, it's not. The only time they'll do an autopsy, well, who does autopsies, first of all?
The medical examiner, usually an official within the county. They're not appointed, they don't run for public office, but there is a medical examiner that's appointed by, in our area, the Board of County Commissioners.
Right.
Independent of the sheriff's office, independent of any law enforcement agency.
And he is a pathologist?
Yeah, he or she, it could be a pathologist, usually a pathologist, someone with experience in that. They come up through other medical examiner offices until they get to the point, and they hire other pathologists as well.
Right. And they do them at the medical examiner's office.
They do. Autopsies are conducted there.
Yeah.
Usually a medical examiner investigator will proceed to the location of a body that's been found, and the medical examiner will supervise.
They're on the scene.
They're on the scene. These are scene investigators, and they work alongside, in criminal cases or suspected criminal cases, they work in conjunction with a local law enforcement agency.
Right.
And then the medical examiner investigator will supervise the removal of the body and the transportation of the body to the medical examiner's office.
Right, and if there's any suspicion that they died of unnatural causes, they will automatically do an autopsy. Otherwise, you have to pay to have an autopsy done.
Correct. And many times, if you have the death of somebody who's been suffering, heart conditions, etc., or someone who suffers a major health episode, stroke or trauma, they will not conduct. An autopsy is not an ordinary procedure.
And they're expensive.
They're expensive. A private one is very expensive.
Yes.
Now, in civil cases, this is interesting because of the sometimes a civil. Someone requests an autopsy when the medical examiner comes to one conclusion and the family wants to see if how accurate that was.
Right, and maybe a medical malpractice case. Correct. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
In criminal cases, it's often the case where the defense attorneys will retain an independent medical examination or someone to review the medical examiner's report and all of the slides. They take slides of the various tissues, etc., to come to a different conclusion.
So that leads me to what is included. I mean, when we have a case, we get a copy of the ME report, we get all the autopsy photos. What's included in that report?
Well, a description of the decedent, height, weight, etc., analysis of the internal organs, description of the wounds or injuries suffered by the decedent.
Where they went in, where they came out.
Entrance wounds, exit wounds, knife wounds, blunt trauma injuries, and they can be pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever looked at autopsy photos?
Yes, I have.
That's my least favorite part of
I
the job.
avoid it.
Yeah, I know. I have to. It's actually easier to look. I haven't been to an autopsy, though we were invited to one, and I sat that one out. So
Okay.
I'm happy with the photographs. So
You're kind of queasy guy.
yeah, I don't really blend guts and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a critical part of the investigator's job is to understand
Yes.
what the medical examiner, what his or her conclusions are, and these often get litigated because the medical examiner can conduct the examination, come to a conclusion, and yet that conclusion may differ from the opinion of another medical
that
examiner.
just happened in a very public case where they had an independent one done and a county one done, and they did not agree.
No.
So yeah.
This is often the case with high-profile homicides, high-profile death, where one medical examiner can come to a conclusion, and then another equally qualified expert comes to a different conclusion. So while the body presents and the facts present identical, the interpretation of those facts is what leads to litigation in death cases.
Kind of like science.
Yeah, I know.
So then there's also, they do blood work, blood toxicology, which is
Correct.
always very important.
Yeah, because if the decedent was suffering from what they call comorbidity, other causes that could have led to death, or was under the influence of a variety of, a cocktail of narcotics, different substances, alcohol, cannabinoids, amphetamines, the whole barbiturates, the whole gamut, opioids particularly. I mean, those all factor into and could have contributed to the cause of death.
Right.
Which in criminal cases is important for criminal liability, and civil cases for the civil liability. Yeah, so an experienced investigator encounters lots, and we've had lots and lots of autopsy or medical examiner reports that we've looked at over the years.
Yeah. Now, we just had a homicide case, a double homicide case, go to trial, and they bring the medical examiner in, the prosecutor does, just like, this is like TV.
Yeah.
They bring him in. The one in Palm Beach County is an excellent witness.
Yes.
He should be on TV. They brought him in, and they'll go through his report with the jury, line by line, and then they blow up the photos.
Yeah.
And the jury gets to see those.
It makes for a very dramatic presentation. Defense
Yeah.
attorneys are always arguing to keep the autopsy or even sometimes the crime scene photos out of it, because it can
it's emotional.
It can inflame the jury as well.
So
it isn't always relevant to the facts of the case. It's always a factor of the case, but it isn't always relevant to the argument of the law of the case.
But he did an excellent job presenting his report, and I mean, I would say they're on this. Well, I don't know. Are they on the side of the prosecutor, or they're
typically no? They're supposed to be an unbiased third party, which is why you don't hand it to a law enforcement agency. That's why they're independent of the law enforcement agencies.
And
oftentimes he was. Oftentimes they're simply there to, I hate to say, describe the facts, just the facts, ma'am. But often they have to make conclusions. Yeah. And a different expert from a different perspective might offer a different conclusion. And so they're always hotly contested, and most of the time they're hotly contested during a criminal trial, and civil trials as well. Yeah. People forget that not all cases that end up in medical exam are criminal cases.
Right.
Oftentimes they are civil cases where hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars are at stake. So, I mean, these are high stakes investigations, high stakes examinations, and attorneys will spend the money to find perhaps a different analysis of the medical examiner's report. But
so, just another exciting aspect of
investigators, criminal and civil, all of us encounter these cases because it is such a source of litigation and liability.
Right.
So, all right. Well, listen, we still got our We're still selling our cool coasters. Not selling, we're actually giving these away.
We could not sell those.
Subscribe link. So, I just want to give them away. So we're throwing them in envelopes to new subscribers. So if you'll direct message us with a mailing address for you, we're happy to send you some of these. They're hot collector's items. Wendy sends them over here, and we'll be preparing again. And remember, as October 7th, you'll be doing your webinar on the silver bullet, which is how civil investigations, civil attorneys want to find former employees of a defendant corporation. It can be very lucrative for the investigators. So Wendy will be talking about the ins and outs of that.
No autopsy needed for
No
those,
autopsy
even though
needed
it's
for
called
those.
the silver bullet.
But great to be with you all. Thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Investigators in Cars Drinking Coffee.
Bye-bye.